As I was saying about Briggs's Pond, when we used to go out and get all these cinders and that and put them in bags, we used to take so many home, and sometimes you'd go and sell them for 6p a bag and all that sort of thing. Now then, getting that 6p a bag, that 6p usually an awful lot of money. Now I remember when we used to go to the pictures and go and see these Saturday afternoon matinees, and we used to get a bus from the Rialto Picture House in Salford up to Prestwich, the Odeon in Prestwich, and I used to get a threepenny bit. That was 3p, 3 pennies, 3 old pennies, and it used to cost me a halfpenny to go all the way up to Prestwich. It was about 4 miles, maybe about 4 miles or so up the road, and a halfpenny up and a halfpenny back home again, and a penny to get in, and a penny for ice cream and chocolate. You used to see some full feature films in them days, and especially I always remember Pinocchio coming out, and I seen Pinocchio on at the Odeon. That was the most marvellous thing that was when I was a kid. Never seen anything like it in my life. Like I say, we never had any television. We had nothing like that. We had to make all our own things. We used to listen to children's hours on the television, no Romany and all them things, Toy Town and all that sort of thing. And you used to imagine, it's surprising, you used to sit there and just sit on the chair and used to just look into space and listen to these things. And me, I used to think there was little people inside the radio, and no doubt there's an awful lot of other kids just imagine that sort of things. You had to have a good imagination during them days, just to keep yourself going. And well, as time went on, I went to St John's School, and I left St John's School when I was about 13. We had to go to another school after that, go to a secondary modern school, what you call a secondary modern school. Some schools, the school that I was at, usually stayed there from the day you started till the day you finished it, 14 years of age. But they fetched this new thing out. When I was 13, I had to leave that school and go to this Broughton Modern School. And I went down to Broughton Modern School for the last 12 months. And then I finished then. And at that last 12 months, the war was just declared over in Europe, but not over in Japan. The war in Japan finished a little bit later on. And after that, I went to work. I went straight out of school, straight to work. And that was the thing in them days, you went out to keep the family. To give back to the family what the family would give to you. And I started at a place called James Woolley's Son on Mary Street in Manchester. And I went basket making, that was my trade. Started in my trade as a basket maker. And I used to earn 30 shillings a week, and out of that 30 shillings a week I used to get 5 shillings a week pocket money. And surprising, that 5 shilling it used to last me all week until the next Friday, when I used to get another one next Friday. And you did all sorts with that 5 bob. Little things, maybe you might have a coupon left, or a toffee coupon left or something like that, and or you might have a couple of halfpennies left to go and buy an ice cream off the old ice cream man who used to come round with a cart, an ice cream, pushing it round, and he used to scoop it out of this tub and then put it in your and a cornet or a wafer or whatever it is, and all that sort of thing. Ice cream in England is not as nice as ice cream as what it is in America. Ice cream in America. I did a few jobs. I went there, and then I left there, and then I went to the National Coal Board, working for the National Coal Board after that. And then I was there quite a few months, and then I had a bad accident there. I fell off the top of a crane. Nearly broke both arms, and nearly took all the tops of my fingers off. So I left there and I went into the theatre, pictures, projection, showing pictures and all that. In between showing pictures, we used to do live concerts and shows and circuses and all that, and I used to work all the flies and all that sort of thing at the back. And that was a great experience. That was absolutely marvellous. And then after that I moved on and went to another job, and that was at Blakely's Bradford Dyers Association. I went in there, Bradford Dyers, calico printing, jig dyeing and finishing and crate finishing and finishing off and all that sort of thing, soapers and all that sort of thing. The grey room, I was in there for 10 years, and then I went into the army then after the army in 1950, I think it was 1950, when I was 18. You had to go in there for 18 months for the army. didn't really want to go in the army because my dad was dying of cancer then. But he'd been in the hospital and he had a serious operation. Took half his stomach away and then I went into the army. I was there for 18 months, and then the buggers, they put the bloody thing up, didn't they, to make you do 2 years. So us that was in there 18 months, we had to do 2 years. Bloody swines. So I went to where did I go first? Oh, I went to Aldershot, Oswald Street, got into the artillery, and then I went to artillery, and I went down to Woolwich Arsenal in London, and I was only there a few weeks, got embarkation leave, and moved out to Tripoli, North Africa. I spent time out in Tripoli, North Africa, which is Libya, and then from there. Oh, I'll tell you another thing. The way that we went over the Medlock route, and we went through Holland, Germany, Austria, Trieste, Malta, Cyprus, and then out to Libya. And I stayed there for about nearly 12 months out in Libya, and then moved from there. And we got moving orders when the Korea War was on. We moved out from there. We were on our way to Korea. And we were quite a way going to the Korean War, and we got turned back from there. We went to Egypt because there was a load of trouble going to start on there when King Farouk was on the throne, and King Farouk in Egypt. And we went out there then, and spent my last 12 months in Egypt. And King Farouk was kicked out by a general called General Nagy. A lot of people seem to think it was Nasser that started the uprising in Egypt nowadays, but that's wrong, because it was a General Nagy, and it was Nasser who is his adjutant, and he kicked General Nagy out after. And when this trouble was on, we were out there, and the Egyptians were raiding British camps and throwing acid in soldiers' faces as they were driving along in cars, holding bottles out and throwing acid all over the swaddies. And we had to go out with rifles or a Bren gun or a Sten gun in your hand with a bandolier of ammunition round you, anywhere, everywhere that you went. And we were in the SPs, the Royal Artillery, 25 pounders in Libya, and then we changed to the SPs, self-propelled 25 pounders there. And we got called out to, when the troubles were on, Ismailia. Went to Ismailia and shot all the police station up and killed an awful lot of people there. Shot them in the streets, which we did. And from there we moved out from there, we went out into the desert, and we surrounded an Egyptian similar SP, self-propelled 25 pounders mounted, for 13 days, and we wouldn't let them move. We would have just shot them all up if they tried to move. And it was nothing for the Egyptians to climb the fences and get into your tents. And we'd had many a lad who had woke up tonight and found somebody in his tent, and they got stabbed in the stomach for the troubles. And there was plenty of the Egyptians that were climbing over. The guards had no hesitation, just shot them. And I'll always remember when I was on guard one night, and they told us all the routine, what to say. And I heard this person coming towards me this night, and I was all on my own, and I heard this bloke, and I said, "Hall 2 goes there." I said, "Hall 2 goes there." I said, "Hall 2 goes there," and I shoved this round up the spout. I had it up, and I had it aimed. I had my finger on the trigger. I would have had no hesitation of shooting him. I would never have the slightest hesitation of shooting him. I would say, "Halt or I will fire." And if he hadn't halted, I'd have shot him. He said, "I am the orderly officer." I said, "Advance and be recognised." That orderly officer was nearly a dead one. I would have had no hesitation whatsoever in shooting him. Anyway, that was one of the experiences, and the experience in Egypt. And I went down. And when I was in Tripoli, North Africa, I spent quite a bit of time in British BMH, the British Military Hospital. I had what they call foot rot on the toes, where your feet, so you got a disease in between your toes and all that. And that was an experience in there. Oh, there's some right laggers in there, trying to swing the lead, trying to be a bit mental, and doing all sorts to swing the leg to get back home again. Half of them did, and half of them didn't. And there was a lot of them in there with varying the diseases and all that, with going to certain places. And they used to come in and give them 120 needles, one every 2 hours, and you used to see their arms were all punctured, all up here, and the back sides were all punctured. And I used to wake up during the night, because it was all the skin ward, all isolation, and I used to hear them come in and say, it's time for your needle, and just say, where do you want it? Oh, shove it in. Shove it anywhere, put it anywhere. And you used to just get over and shove it in like that. And that was part of the punishment, was penicillin, 120 needles of penicillin. And I used to get discharged and bloody me to be bloody well back again in a couple of months, so I don't know. Anyway, we got shipped out there, and like I say, we were on our way to Korea, and we got stopped when we were going to Korea, and we went to Egypt, and we sorted all the wogs out there. Shouldn't say wogs, that's racial discrimination these days. So anyway, I come home, went back to my old job at Calico Printing, and then I found myself there on 3 days a week working, and 2 days on the dole, and 2 days on the dole, and 3 days working alternative each week. 1 week you're working 3 days, next week you're working 2 days and 3 days on the dole, which wasn't very satisfactory. And then days, I was married when I was there then. At least I think I was. No, I wasn't. Yes, I did. I got married there, yeah. That's when I met Betty. But I met Betty, my wife. I met Betty. There's a funny thing about meeting Betty, actually. Because it was just before I went in the army. I made a date with her. And I said I'd meet her on the corner of the playing field at the corner there. And I never met her. I went back home then. A couple of days after that, went away in the army. And then when I got back, after 2 years, I was 2 years overseas in Egypt and Libya, and I met her again, and I met her at a corner of a street, one top of one bank and top of another bank. She was down there with Rita Clines. I think Jeffrey remembers Rita Clines. Do you remember Rita Clines? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we said we'd meet at the bank. She was at the bottom and I was at the top. We missed one another then, but fortunately we walked up from one bank to the other and we met one another. And the time before that, I told her, she said, what happened to you last time? She said, I went home and told my mum, I went home crying and told my mum that he didn't turn up for a date, but my mother said he was plenty more fish in the sea. But I said, well, after all that, she picked a good fish in the sea when she picked me, and I picked a marvellous fish out of the sea when I picked her. Anyway, we got caught in, and it was a bit of a struggle, because my dad was dying with cancer at that particular time, and it wasn't very nice. And my family home wasn't all that good to me over the years, so we'll just push on a little bit. And on the day that was we're getting married at Presbyterian Church in Salford, Rita had got married a couple of weeks before us, and then we got Singleton Presbyterian Church. I'm sorry. Rita, more or less a half sister, because when her mother died, her family, Uncle Jack and Auntie Harry, looked after her. And we went there, they got married a few weeks before us, and then we got married after. And then we had a little reception round at their house, and we got a car, and we went round to their house, and Auntie Harry and Uncle Jack laid on the food and everything. It was nice. Only a little 2 up and 2 down house. No bath in the house, no hot water, but they managed. And they gave us a nice day. It was a beautiful day. And then we actually walked home back to her house, back to Betty's house, which was her house then. She was living there on her own. And that's when our married life started then. It was absolutely wonderful. And I had 35 years of good marriage to a nice lady, a beautiful lady. And well, I went back to work at Blakely's, and that was working 12 on days for only about £7.50 a week. And then after that it was I went on nights for 12 months, earning £14.50 a week. And then the first one come along, Jeffrey, first one to come along. I came home from work off nights and went in, and your mum wasn't there, and I looked all over the house, not there, because that was only a little 2 up and 2 down. No, what's the name? No hot water, no inside toilet or anything. But just to make a little bit of funny side, out in the toilet, if you had toilet paper, newspaper cut up into squares with a string through it, you were pretty well off. And Jeffrey remembers, otherwise it was just stuck behind the lead pipe. The address? Oh, the address is 45 Warwick Street in Salford. It was 45 Warwick Street. And anyway, you weren't there, and I was running around the street in the morning trying to find out what's going on. And Gertie, who used to live next door,